Hi everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Adam, and today we are going to talk about something called Tartaria. It has been used as a blanket term for a lost civilization, but it also refers to a specific part of our forgotten past. Tartaria shows up on many old maps as a region or country. There are even images of a flag, but today we're told it wasn't a real country, just a name for an area with so-called barbarians. The fact that Tartaria and similar things are left out of history books makes people question what else might be missing. You can see similar patterns around the world, but today I'll be focusing on the United States. Let's start with some old maps. Here are a couple examples I found, but there are many others that I've come across. One is a Spanish map from the 1600s that shows North America complete with castles all across it. The second map is from 1777 and also shows Utah with castles depicted on it. Now let's take a look at some early depictions of Native Americans that might go against the common understanding. This one from 1852 shows people called the Timpanogos Indians in Utah. The woman has a dot on her forehead, which makes me think maybe there is some truth to the term Indians. They also seem more advanced than we're usually told. Next, here are some drawings of native people from Virginia. They look fair-skinned, which is something you'll also find in a lot of old depictions. Maybe the people living here long ago were more diverse than we think. Here is a depiction of Cortez meeting Montezuma. As you can see, the so-called European architecture was already there. Although this is just a drawing from the 1800s, it reinforces the feeling that some of us have in this research. After looking at a lot of this stuff for years, I am of the belief that we have received a dumbed-down version of history that has depicted the native people as savages, when in reality they may have been more in tune with the natural world and more advanced in their building styles, and that this may have been part of a worldwide civilization. Some Native American groups say they are descended from royalty and are connected to the Moors. One example of this is the Washita Moors, who are native to Louisiana. The Moors were very skilled builders, and their architectural style can be found all over the US, often explained as Moorish revival. But maybe these buildings are older than we're told. Now let's talk about the early history of the US. We know that there were many conflicts between settlers and native people, but the full extent might be larger than what we've heard about. George Washington is often celebrated in our history, but his well-known quote, "I cannot tell a lie, I cut down the cherry tree," carries an eerie resemblance to the phrase "cutting down the Cherokee." It makes me wonder if there's a deeper symbolic meaning to this story. It's also interesting to note that Benjamin Franklin was discovered to have many human remains in his basement. So how did all this happen? Some think there was some kind of global reset around the time the US was founded. The idea is that the old civilization was weakened, making it easier for new power to take over. Since history is written by the victors, that could be why we know so little about it. We do know that native groups were removed from their land, forced into schools, and made to forget their language. They were also separated from their families. Another strange part of history is the huge number of asylums built in the US. These were massive buildings, almost like castles, built in the late 1800s. It's hard to believe this kind of architecture was needed or even possible at that time, especially when the country was still developing. Often we're told these buildings went up in just 1 year, which doesn't seem realistic. It's possible these buildings were used to imprison people who would not go along with the new narrative. Now let's take a look at some buildings I believe came from this previous civilization. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, there were many World's Fairs. These events had massive, beautiful buildings. Take Chicago, for example. It looks nothing like something temporary, and apparently there were over 200 of these buildings. Then there's St. Louis and San Francisco, all with similar fairs, and many more. These fairs might have been important in rewriting history and destroying the old buildings afterward. Another big event that could have destroyed part of the old world was the Civil War. In pictures at that time, we see cities with beautiful architecture that were totally destroyed. There's also the Great Fires, which seemed to hit a lot of the major cities across the United States. As you look deeper, even small towns have buildings with stories that don't make much sense. To wrap things up, I think things are usually more complicated than just good and bad, but I do believe we are waking up to our true history. This subject goes way deeper than I was able to cover today, but I hope you liked the video and have an awesome day.